The Squid Game is an impressive series, and it has always been debated whether it is inspired by a true story or not. But in recent weeks, information about a terrible real case in South Korea has been revealed. This event is described by many as the true origin of the series. How true is this? We will find out. Today on CharlieTales, I will tell you everything about the origin of Squid Game. We will also debunk rumors and false ideas about the topic. Ready? Let's begin. Squid Game is a series created by Hwang Dong-hyuk, a Korean film director who rose to fame when Netflix released the show in 2021. But what was the origin of the idea? Did the creator base it on a real-life story? In recent weeks, information about a real case in South Korea has gone viral, which shares several similarities with Squid Game. I want to tell you the story of Brothers Home. The Brothers Home Welfare Center was a shelter created to house homeless people during the 1970s and 1980s. But in this place, countless atrocities were committed against thousands of vulnerable people who were locked up against their will and tortured in terrible ways. This event is one of the greatest tragedies in Korea and surprisingly shares many similarities with the series. For example, there are details like the inmates wearing uniforms similar to those in the series. Additionally, the guards forced the inmates to compete against each other in humiliating games just for fun. From the beginning, the shelter operated with many irregularities. There were rumors about what was happening, but everything exploded in 1988. At that time, the country was preparing for the Seoul Olympics, so the government set out to clean the streets of vagabonds. The state ordered the authorities to pick up these people and put them in shelters. Brothers Home was one of the many places chosen for the mission. But the authorities didn't just pick up vagabonds. They captured anyone drunk or without identification. They even picked up any child wandering the streets without their parents. It turned into a witch hunt. In the photos, you can see how children were packed like sardines in this truck. Then they were locked up in the shelter, stripped of all their basic rights, and made to work like slaves. The drawings you are seeing were made by victims who managed to survive. They say they were forced to work on construction sites, farms, and factories. Both children and adults were abused by the guards in every horrible way you can imagine. There are things I can't even say due to YouTube censorship. Fortunately, when everything got out of control, justice intervened and the people were freed from the place. Official data confirms that more than 6,500 inmates died during the years the shelter operated. Brothers Home went down in Korean history as an indelible stain. It is one of the largest cases of human rights violations. I'd like to talk more about the subject, but it's important to stay focused. How does all this connect to Squid Game? In many videos, the idea is sold that the director was inspired by Brothers Home to create the series. But this is not true, at least not officially. Nowhere has the director admitted any connection between Brothers Home and Squid Game. Personally, I don't rule out that the director might have been inspired by this event for some details of the series. Let's take into account that the director is 53 years old. That means that when the Brothers Home case exploded, he was 15 years old. He was in Korea when everything was revealed in the country's news. With this context, it's hard for me to believe that he didn't include something of this macabre event in his series. The story of Brothers Home reminds us of Squid Game for several reasons, aside from the uniforms. The ideology of the event is too similar to the series. Brothers Home was created as a way to hide or even make poor people disappear. Vulnerable people who had fallen on hard times were treated like trash because being poor, they had no value. The shelter's guards believed they had the right to use them however they wanted. They humiliated and tortured them, regardless of whether they were children or adults. In Squid Game, something similar happens. The players are not considered human beings. At best, they are considered racehorses. They are only useful as entertainment for the VIPs. In fact, this idea can be seen in the players' dormitory. The way the beds are stacked reminds us of a warehouse, one bed over another. The cinematographer stated that she arranged the beds this way to give the appearance of a storage room full of boxes. This was intended to represent that the players are not people, they are objects. Additionally, the series focuses a lot on telling us that the players are worthless beings, miserable people who should disappear. The recruiter says this in episode 1. The series often uses the word players, but it is really referring to poor people, people in debt, or down on their luck. In the first episode, we literally have a scene of the recruiter mocking vagabonds on the street. They don't hate gamblers per se, they hate the poor. In the series, the VIPs see these people as worthless beings. The frontman is not much different. He despises people who have fallen on hard times. The brothers' case is identical. Only in that case, it was the government that decided to hide poor people as if they had no dignity. Brothers Home is a perfect example of what happens when these philosophies are taken seriously. This occurs when human rights are violated, and the powerful believe they can do anything to the less fortunate. The connections to the series are more than evident, not only aesthetically, but also philosophically. So it's up to each of you to decide if there is truly a connection between Brothers Home and Squid Game. It's quite debatable. Moving forward with the topic, the series director has stated that Squid Game is inspired by various events in his life. First, his childhood. All the games are based on childhood games from South Korea. The green uniforms are based on the clothing Korean children wear in school. The inspiration also came from a difficult time in the director's life. At one point, he couldn't find work, and to survive alongside his mother and grandmother, they had to take out loans. This experience inspired him to create the idea of indebted people in the games. According to the director, his idea was to represent the classic problems of capitalism. That is, extreme competition, debt, and social injustices. All of this is perfectly represented in the series. Here we see people risking their lives for money, losing their dignity to survive, and save their families. This happens every day in real life. If we have to conclude what the dark origin of the series was, I would say it's this. We are all in the same game. We live the Squid Game every day. We just don't realize it. Squid Game represents many realities of our world. It shows us how society has dehumanized us so much that it makes us compete against each other like racehorses. If we want to connect the topic with the terrible case of Brothers Home, we can say that this event is a representation of what happens every day in the world, but taken to an extreme level. This happens when people are dehumanized and stripped of all dignity. This horrible case makes it clear that reality often surpasses fiction. To end the video, I want to talk about these photos you are seeing on the screen. In many places, these photos are being shared, claiming that this was the real place where Squid Game happened. It's logical to think so, because the colors are similar. However, this is not true. These photos were made with artificial intelligence. They belong to a digital artist who creates horror scenarios. You can see their profile on the screen. These photos were released in August 2024, before the second season premiered. And in fact, they weren't even made with Squid Game in mind. They belong to another project of theirs. But many people took the photos and made them go viral, claiming they were the real place of Squid Game. The truth is, they are not. I love crazy theories, but that doesn't mean I'm going to bring you misinformation. That's all for today. If you liked the video, you'd really help me out by leaving a like. That would be legendary. Also, remember to subscribe to see more videos like this. Thanks for listening. My name is Charlie, and I'll see you in the future.